welcome everyone to our webcast today, Analytics with AWS. My name is Austin Fiero, and I'm joined by my colleague Scott Stieritz. Scott and I are both business intelligence and analytics consultants here at Thorogood, and we're joining today's webcast from our Philadelphia office. We'll also share our contact details again at the end of this presentation. So today, I'm going to give an introduction for those unfamiliar with our work at Thorogood and what we do. I'll also give an overview of AWS, touching on a few of the tools and technologies that Amazon offers. I'm then going to hand it over to Scott, who will be doing a deep dive in a few of the analytics offerings that Amazon has. Lastly, we're going to go through a use case that shows how AWS Analytics can improve how a company operates. So for those of you who don't know Thorogood, we're an independent global professional services firm specializing in business intelligence and analytics strategies, solutions, and services with a keen focus on our customers. We're a global company with offices in New York, Philadelphia, London, Bangalore, India, Singapore, and Sao Paulo, Brazil. All of our consultants are recruited and trained in the same way to develop a unique mix of skills, blending business understanding in the form of industry and functional experience with strong technical aptitude and a deep understanding of analytical tools and techniques. We offer a full range of BI and analytics services, including strategy and roadmaps, requirements, design, implementation, and training and support. So in terms of technologies we work with, we're an independent consulting firm, meaning we don't work with one specific technology. We do, however, work and partner with many of the key players in the market in order to provide our clients with the best solution that best suits their needs. We partner with many leading cloud vendors, including, as you see here, Amazon Web Services, which we'll be discussing in more detail today. So now I'm going to go over the AWS Overview. Cloud has been a popular buzzword among many IT and business professionals, and many organizations are working to define a strategy on how the cloud will impact their current systems and ways of working. So why have so many people agreed that the cloud is essentially the future? We've outlined about 10 here, key benefits of the cloud, and each business will likely value a few of these differently and more benefits than others. For example, a sales team may look to use a cloud system to quickly and cost-effectively develop a tool to better manage their progress towards monthly sales targets without being dependent on their internal IT department. Likewise, an IT department may be looking to increase the scalability and improve resiliency for a heavy-use point-of-sale system to improve reporting performance for end users and avoid system shutdowns during periods of office maintenance. Of course, your individual priorities and needs will be specific to your organization. So please reach out to us if you're determining a cloud strategy or interested in our advice on what topics to consider. So here's a diagram of how Amazon organizes its product offering, and behind each of these icons, there's a number of products, services, that can be utilized as part of a cloud solution. So we won't be able to cover all of these today during the webcast, but I want to focus on a few common pieces that some clients have used for business intelligence and analytics use cases. So the first one here is what Amazon calls Compute, and I've just outlined a few of the offerings that Amazon has. As I mentioned, there are many more if you go on the website. So I want to call out Amazon EC2. It's essentially a virtual server in the cloud, secure and resizable computing capacity, as well as web-scale computing for developers. There's also AWS Lambda, so you're able to run your code in response to events or triggers, and there's no need for provisioning or managing servers. It's essentially serverless. The next one that I wanted to call out is storage. So Amazon offers what's called, first one here, Amazon Simple Storage Service, or what everyone else calls S3. It's essentially object storage built to store and retrieve data. Some people use this as essentially creating their data lake. It offers security and scalability for customers and data durability so that data is always available and protected. A subclass of that is Amazon S3 Glacier. So it's a low-cost storage system, essentially ideal for data archiving, long-term backups, what some people call cold storage. The next one here is database. So I've called out Amazon RDS, Redshift, and Database Migration Services, or DMS. So DMS, for example, is used to migrate your databases with minimal downtime, continuous replication as well for high availability. Amazon RDS is available for MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, and others. You essentially can set up, scale, and operate relational databases. It's a PaaS offering for automated provisioning, patching, and backups. And the last one here, Amazon Redshift, for data warehousing in the cloud, for low-cost operations as well as a high-performance data warehouse to meet your needs. Now, the last thing I want to call out before handing this over to Scott is around Amazon's analytics and machine learning offerings. Now, there are multiple offerings for both analytics and machine learning, but I wanted to call out a few here today, which Scott's going to dive into in a few moments. So that is Amazon Athena, AWS Glue, Amazon Kinesis, and Amazon SageMaker from a machine learning perspective. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Scott to do a little bit more of a deep dive on that.
Thanks, Austin. I figured in order to kind of understand some of those AWS analytics offerings and how they can be valuable, it's kind of helpful to take a look at the analytics process as a whole. So at Thorogood, the approach to analytics that we generally take is based on the cross-industry standard process for data mining, which is shown on the screen here. So like our kind of general approach to business intelligence, it focuses on taking the business goals and then pairing those goals with technical possibilities in order to drive business value from analytics. So within this process, we first start out by taking our business understanding to identify maybe certain analyses or questions that we want to answer that are traditionally difficult to answer and would add a lot of value to the business if we are able to come up with an answer to those, and at the same time considering how we can possibly use some of the data that we currently have or maybe data that we don't yet have but could get access to that can be leveraged to assist in answering these questions. Then once we've identified these questions, we'll want to prepare the data in a way that allows us to use this data in any analytical model that we're building. Then after we actually create the model, we'll of course want to evaluate those results and understand how well is that model actually answering the question that we set out to answer. So as we're assessing the results, we'll kind of pair that back with our business understanding and data understanding to figure out, like I said, how well it's answering the original question. And then from there, we might decide, well, we may need to prepare the data slightly differently. Maybe we need to adjust our model slightly. Maybe we want to get rid of some outliers that are throwing off our analysis, something like that. And then we'll, run the model again, kind of adjust the data prep, adjust the modeling aspect, bring that back to evaluation. And we may kind of go through this iterative process many different times. Some of them may be long iterations, some of them may be very quick. Then finally, we've arrived at something that provides value. It's pretty important here to make sure that at each step of this iteration, we have the right tools to progress quickly through this approach. So then after these iterations, like I said, we finally come to a model with the insights that we've been looking for, that we want to share wider with the rest of the company and may want to run more frequently. So at this point, we're deploying our model and make it available for repeated use, repeated analysis. Could be within reports or could be integrated into other business applications, but making sure that that's shared throughout the organization. So now that we have an understanding of what the analytical process can look like, we kind of have some grounding for how some of these analytics tools that Austin called out a couple of minutes ago can fit into this analytics process. And the first of those that we're going to look at here is Amazon Athena. So in the same way that we'd regularly query a database, maybe query a data warehouse for specific analyses, maybe to answer some questions that we have about what data is available, Amazon Athena allows us to do this exact same thing with our data that's sitting in a data lake, perhaps within S3 buckets. And it uses standard SQL for queries, so it's very intuitive to use. And this is a very powerful tool that can query very large data sets rather quickly. We can run a number of complex queries and analyses on this data. So why is this useful for analytics? Sort of where does this fit into the process? Well, it can contribute to a number of different steps. It can contribute to data prep. It can contribute to our analysis of the data that's output by our models to kind of get a better grasp on evaluating them. But the primary contribution here is that it allows us to take a deep dive into our data that's currently living in S3, enabling some rapid exploration, rapid experimentation, as well as informing the design of what the data transformations or even data sources will be that we may need for our analysis. Another tool that we'll look at here is AWS Glue. So as far as what it is, it's a serverless, fully managed ETL tool that integrates pretty closely with all the other AWS offerings. It includes allowing data movement and data transformation across, again, S3, Aurora, RDS, Redshift, And even for services that aren't, specific to AWS, a number of the most popular relational data stores like MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, or Postgres, all running on EC2, we can still interact with those as well. And this allows us to transform our data, maybe enrich it with some additional sources, and generally prepare our data however we need for the analyses that we're running. So again, why is this useful for analytics? Well, the first thing is that makes this so useful is the ease of data preparation. And on top of that, it actually generates a portable ETL code for us based on whatever transformations we've used, and we can take that portable code, we can customize it as little or as much as we need based on the analytics project, and it's also very easy to customize on an ongoing basis. So as our needs for data prep evolve based on our investigation into what models we want to use, we can adapt that data prep process quite quickly alongside that. And it can also help us to prepare our training data sets, feeding back the same portable code into pre-processing steps for actual data scoring and a number of different things. Lastly, it actually comes with a data cataloging feature that can contribute significantly to our growing understanding of the data. The third tool that Austin called out a couple minutes ago is Amazon Kinesis, and this is a pretty interesting tool in the realm of analytics. So, there are many different streaming and real-time data sources available in the world, and Kinesis allows us to bring in those sources to our own analyses. This is, everything from maybe some monitoring logs of our business applications to maybe video streaming or connectivity to Internet of Things sensors, all the way to a collection of social media data. So why is this useful for analytics? Well, again, it contributes pretty significantly to data preparation, especially when we're using these types of data sources. And it essentially makes this data that was previously pretty difficult to manage and pretty difficult to use in analytics use cases much more readily available. It can also be very flexible depending on the type of model that you want to run. So let's say you need a lot of data available at one time. We can support batch processing of your data to kind of have all that data available. Or if you already have your model ready to go and the model just takes in one new record at a time, you can use Kinesis to do some of that more real-time live streaming to bring in records as they're created and run that analysis record by record. There's also a little bit more functionality that helps with data prep. Built-in ability to filter, aggregate, and transform your data, which allows you to kind of reduce the amount of time spent in this data prep phase and really narrow down your data to exactly what you need. And then the last tool that we want to look at in detail today is Amazon SageMaker. So this is a multifaceted suite for machine learning. It enables everything from model selection, model training, through deployment, and even hosting of the models that you create. So one of the key benefits of SageMaker is the streamlining of resource consumption throughout the development process and by productionized models through this auto-scaling functionality that it has. Why this is very valuable is that it reduces barrier to entry here. So you don't need to invest in massively powerful machines in order to just run one analysis that needs a lot of compute power. It can actually consume as much or as little compute power as you need and change over time. So, if you want to start with some kind of light touch analyses, and then as those analyses grow and develop, you need more and more compute power. That's something that SageMaker can be quite flexible in and sort of move alongside you. Why is it useful for analytics? Well, it supports analysts and data scientists throughout the entirety of modeling, evaluation, and all the way through model deployment. So if you're looking to get started on analysis quickly to prove out value, it reduces the time to value through a number of pre-built models, which can then be easily customized after you've proven out that initial value and are looking to optimize some of the results. Another major benefit is consistency of the platform. So you don't need to query data in one system, then maybe take an extract locally, maybe a CSV to your machine, then maybe you have RStudio or something running on your machine where you develop the model, then you try to take that model and package it up and move it to some other hosting service in order to share wider, or packaging within Excel workbooks or something like that. You're not kind of trying to navigate across a bunch of different tools and platforms. Instead, with SageMaker, you can move your model from the beginning of exploration, the beginning of experimentation, all the way through productionization within this unified interface. So now that we've taken a deeper dive into some of the tools that can contribute to the analytics process, we want to take a look at a use case for how some of these tools can fit together in a useful way. So for this use case, we're kind of taking a look at a scenario here in which, let's imagine we're employees of a large consumer goods company, and our company is looking to launch a new flavor within one of our soda brands. And our company already has a lot of data available. We have sales data for some of the other flavors or variants of this product that we've been selling in the past or currently selling within this same brand, and the same for essentially across all of our brands, but other brands within the company, especially related brands. We also have social media data, specifically coming from Twitter, that tries to encompass the public opinion of our company's products before and after some of the previous times that we've launched new products. Let's say sometime in the past, we've launched a new flavor within the same brand of soda, capturing how the public has reacted to that. So then the goal of this use case here is to understand this relationship between customer sentiment around the new flavor launch and the sales for that flavor over the following year, and then use this relationship, our understanding of this relationship, to predict how newly innovated products, so product innovation performance, will behave over that year. We want to do all this utilizing the power and flexibility of Amazon Web Services. So now we'll kind of do a quick deep dive into some more specifics around this use case. So down at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, we have a small legend just to kind of give a sense for the types of technologies that we're using. But as I mentioned, we have Twitter data coming in to kind of capture public sentiment around our brands. So we have Twitter data, and that's being captured by Amazon Kinesis. And then, like I said, there's some filtering functionality within Kinesis, so we can narrow that down to specific brands or maybe this newly innovative flavor that we want to look at, and capture that within social media sentiment bucket, we'll call it, within S3. Then in parallel, we have a bunch of data sitting in Amazon Redshift. We have a database of our internal shipments data. We also have point of sale data that we're taking in, and we're using AWS Glue, that kind of ETL step right here, to combine some of that data, do some data movement, a little bit of light transformation, and then bring that into another S3 sales bucket. Then we're using AWS Glue again to grab the data that we have sitting in that S3 bucket, capturing social media and capturing sentiment, and combine that with our internal sales and shipment data. Then we have this next bucket that we're calling combined data. And then that's when we bring in Amazon SageMaker. So initially we hand that off, that kind of combined, lightly prepared data, but generally pretty raw data, to our data scientists, who are then going into SageMaker, connecting to that data, and doing some initial exploration, kind of figuring out what types of attribution in the data they may want, and doing some of that initial model selection and model development. At some point, they've kind of sorted out the steps that they need, exactly how they want the data prepared, and they can do that initial cut of data by transforming it however they need and storing it in another S3 bucket, which will essentially be our training data for the model. And then, of course, we can use that, bring that back to the model, and train the data appropriately. And then, separately, we can split out some testing data to kind of evaluate how this model is working. And then eventually, when we're happy with the performance of the model, we can deploy the model to an endpoint, again, within SageMaker. And then some of the value of this kind of portable code is that during this process, the data scientists have essentially defined what they expect that prepared data to look like, or what they need it to look like for this model. So we can kind of capture those steps that are taken from that initial exploration and development to coming up with the training and testing data, and feed those back into that AWS Glue ETL process that leads to previously the combined data. But after we feed in some of those new steps, we'll call this the pre-processed data. Then, as we recall, we've already deployed our model to the endpoint in SageMaker, so then we can take this pre-processed data. As new data comes in through Twitter, new sales data comes in, we can run these through the same ETL processes, pre-process them using the same steps that our data scientists are expecting, then run it through our finalized model, and end up with our final score data, which again we can put in S3, we can move that to other data stores. We could then, surface that maybe through some visualization tools, tons of different options with what we can do there. So that's what we wanted to cover on the use case, and then I'll hand it back to Austin for a quick wrap-up.
So thank you all for joining today's webcast. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to Scott or I with any questions. Thank you, and have a great day.